Welcome to Boxing Revival. In this video, I have ranked the top 10 best boxers of the 1990s. I have also listed down the honorable mentions, the boxers who just missed the cut, but contributed greatly in the decade. You will see boxers not on this list, although they have won titles in this decade, their careers took a peak in the 2000s decade. Mike Tyson is also not in this list, because he was convicted for almost 3 years, suffered 3 losses in the decade, and winning over his not-so-talented opponents. The best of his career was in the 1980s. This rankings is purely based on their achievements in the decade. So let's take a look, where this boxers rank, in the best of the 1990s decade. At number 10. Riddick, Big Daddy Bo. Riddick Bowe was an American, 2-time heavyweight world champion. He was the undisputed heavyweight champion from 1992 to 1993. And in 1995, he won the WBO title, becoming the first boxer in history to hold the WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO titles. Riddick Bowe holds 2 wins over Evander Holyfield, and was voted as the 1992 Ring Magazine and Boxing Writers of America Fighter of the Year. At number 9. Prince Naseem Hamed. United Kingdom's Naseem Hamed was a southpaw with unconventional fighting style. He was undefeated in the decade. He held the WBO featherweight title in 1995, added the IBF title in 1997, the lineal championship in 1998, and the WBC title in 1999. He was considered as the best British featherweight of all time. At number 8. James "Lights Out" Toney. The American 3-division world champion was the 1991 Ring Magazine and Boxing Writers of America Fighter of the Year, when he won the IBF and lineal middleweight titles with the 11th round stoppage of Michael Nunn. He made 6 title defenses before winning the IBF super middleweight title in 1993. He defended the title 3 times until 1994. He won the less regarded IBO cruiserweight title on 1997. At number 7. Ricardo "El Finito" Lopez. The Mexican undefeated world champion was the greatest minimum weight champion of all time, and also one of the greatest Mexican boxers of all time. He was the WBC and lineal minimum weight champion from 1990 to 1998. He defended his titles on 21 different boxers, a division record. In 1999, he won the IBF light flyweight title, defending it until his retirement in 2001. At number 6. Felix "Tito" Trinidad. Tito Trinidad is considered to be one of the greatest boxers from Puerto Rico. He won the IBF welterweight title in 1993, when he knocked out Maurice Blocker. He defended the title 14 times, before defeating Oscar De La Hoya in 1999, to unify the IBF, WBC, and lineal welterweight titles. He defeated Pearl Whitaker and Hector Camacho in his reign. At number 5. Oscar "the Golden Boy" De La Hoya. The Mexican-American boxer has won the gold medal in the lightweight division of the 1992 Olympic Games. He won WBO Super Featherweight and WBO Lightweight titles in 1994, the WBC Junior Welterweight title in 1996, and the WBC Welterweight title in 1997, with a win over Pernell Whitaker. De La Hoya was the 1995 Ring Magazine Fighter of the Year. At number 4. Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. The American Whitaker was the unified lightweight champion from 1989 to 1991, the IBF Junior Welterweight champion in 1992, the WBA Light Middleweight champion in 1995, and the WBC and Linear Welterweight champion from 1993 to 1997. He was the 1993 Boxing Writers of America Fighter of the Year, and considered to be one of the best defensive boxers of all time. Before we move to the top 3, let's take a look at our honorable mentions. The boxers who contributed greatly during the decade. We included Bernard, the Executioner Hopkins. The American Bernard Hopkins was the IBF middleweight champion in 1995 and would go on and reign as the undisputed champion of the early 21st century. His best years was in the 2000s decade. Also in this list is the great Mexican champion, Julio Cesar Chavez. He was the WBC and Lineal Light Welterweight champion twice, from 1989 to 1996. But 4 of his losses was in the decade, including 2 against Oscar De La Hoya. He was ranked higher in the previous decade, because his best years was in the 1980s. Up next is American light flyweight king, Michael Carbajal. Nicknamed the Little Haynes of Stone, he also has a Mexican descent. He was a 5-time light flyweight champion, winning his first world title in 1990. Then retired in 1999 as a world champion, after knocking out WBO light flyweight champion, Jorge Arce. Next is Michael Moorer, the American 2-division world champion and 3-time heavyweight champion. He was WBO light heavyweight champion in 1988 to 1991, and became the first southpaw heavyweight champion in history when he defeated Evander Holyfield in 1994 for the unified heavyweight world titles. Up next is Steve, the Celtic Warrior, Collins. Steve Collins was an Irish 2-division world champion. He won the WBO middleweight title in 1994, before winning the WBO super middleweight title in 1995, defending it until his retirement in 1997. He holds 2 wins over Chris Eubank and Nigel Benn. Also included is the Dark Destroyer, Nigel Benn. The British boxer was a 2-division champion. He was the WBO middleweight champion in 1990, and the WBC super middleweight champion from 1992 to 1996. Up next is Chris Eubank. Nicknamed simply the Best, The British boxer was a two-division world champion. He won the WBO middleweight title over Nigel Benn in 1990 and the WBO super middleweight title from 1991 before losing it to Steve Collins in 1995. Also in this list is Terry Norris. The American boxer is a three-time light middleweight world champion. He was the unified WBC, IBF, and lineal light middleweight champion from 1995 to 1997. He is considered to be one of the greatest light middleweight champion of all time. At number 3, Lennox, the Lion, Lewis. The British-Canadian Lewis was a two-time heavyweight champion in the 90s. Lewis held the WBC title from 1992, before losing it in 1994. He regained the title in 1997, when he stopped Oliver McCall. Lewis unified the heavyweight division in 1999, defeating his rival Evander Holyfield. Lennox Lewis was one of the greatest heavyweight boxers of all time. At number 2. Evander, the Real Deal, Holyfield. The American boxer was a four-time heavyweight champion. He was the 1996 and 1997 Ring Magazine and Boxing Writers of America Fighter of the Year. Holyfield was the undisputed champion from 1990 to 1992. He holds wins over heavyweight greats Larry Holmes, George Foreman, and 2 wins over Mike Tyson. Evander Holyfield was one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. At number 1. Roy Jones, Jr. The American boxer was one of the greatest pound-for-pound boxers of all time. He was named as the Ring Magazine and Boxing Writers of America 1990s Fighter of the Decade. He was the king of boxing of the 90s. He won the IBF middleweight title in 1993, the IBF super middleweight title in 1994, and reigned as the undisputed light heavyweight champion in 1999. Roy Jones was one of the best light heavyweights of all time. This is boxing. Boxing lives on. Continue to support this beautiful and exciting sport. Thank you for watching. For more boxing stories, boxing fights, and boxing news, subscribe on this channel. Click the notification bell for more updates. Because in this channel, together we will revive the boxing world.